What is up, YouTube? JankyYGO here. My name is Michael, and today we have the full set list of the new cards for Kingsport. So, we have no artwork for these cards, but we do have all their effects, so let's just jump right into it. First up, Arcana Triumph Joker, level 10 Light Warrior effect monster. Has a question mark for attack, 2500 defense if this card is in your hand or graveyard. You can send one Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and Jack's Knight from your hand and or face-up monster zone to the graveyard, special summon this card. This card gains 500 attack times the combined number of cards in both players' hands. You can discard one card to destroy all face-up monsters your opponent controls with the same type as a discarded card. So, you have to send 3 cards from your hand or face-up field to summon this. Casually wise, if you like Kings, Queens, and Jacks Knight and all that, and you're playing with your friends, and you guys are playing like low-powered decks or decks more centered around Yugi's cards and everything, or you have just a deck based around these that you play with your friends and all that, then this is fine. But I think that for competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, definitely not a good enough card. Just because you have to go neg 3 just to summon it, and then on top of that you have to discard more cards after that to get its effect. I'm not a big fan of it, but yeah, it does have an effect similar to Slifer. That's kind of cool, but overall not very impressed. Next up, Joker's Knight. So level 5. A Light Warrior effect monster, 2000 attack, 1400 defense. You can send one Queen's Knight, King's Knight, or Jack's Knight from your deck to the graveyard, special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, its name becomes the sent monsters until the end of turn. During the end phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target one other Light Warrior monster in your graveyard, shuffle into the deck, and if you do, you add this card to your hand. Okay, so this one's actually really good, though, because, I mean, you have to play those cards. That sucks. However, King's Knight is a level 4, and so is Queen's Knight. So, if you have a reinforcements of the army, or you have a, if you have a reinforcements of the army, or you just have King's Knight in your hand, you can activate, use Joker, send Queen's Knight, its name becomes Queen's Knight, you normal summon King's Knight, and then you get the Jack's Knight from your deck, so you get the whole Knights and all that. And this is just good support as well, because it also shuffles those back in, because they are all Light Warriors, and it adds itself back to the hand to summon itself on the next turn. Or on this turn if it's already in your graveyard and all that. So, overall, I think this is a pretty good card for this archetype. Definitely good support, and yeah, it's a good card to see. I know that they were hyping this card up as being potential Slifer support, but honestly, probably not. It is a free monster though, which is kind of cool, but still cool. Definitely good card for this because it's a level 5 that summons itself. Next up, Imperial Bower. Level 4 Light Warrior effect monster, 1500 attack and 1500 defense. If you control no other monsters, you contribute this card. Take 2 monsters from your deck among Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and or Jack's Knight, and either add to your hand or special summon each monster. And then you can only use this effect once per turn. See, this one's really good as well, because this one just lets you summon them straight from the deck. Which is very good. The only issue is, until you read more, there isn't any way to summon this out. So if there's a way to summon this out, besides like, Monster Reborn or something like that, granted, like I said, I haven't read the rest of the cards, but with what we've read so far, there isn't really a good way to summon this out for free. If there was, then this would be great. But anyway, let's just move on. Next up, with Joker Straight. Discard one card, special summon one Queen's Knight from your deck, add one King's Knight or Jack's Knight from your deck to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one monster. You cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except for Light Warriors. During the end phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target one Light Warrior monster in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, and if you do, you add this card to your hand. I'm pretty sure Noble Knight Isolde is a Light Warrior. So you can still go into like Isolde plays. Uh, I'll double check that as we go on, but that is a very powerful spell card. I think that it does everything you want, and because it says you immediately normal summon, that means that is good Slifer support if you wanted to play this with Slifer. Okay, I just looked it up. Isolde, the Two Tails of the Noble Knights, is a Light Warrior. So, you can still make Isolde and go into those plays. Granted, you're only going to be able to summon Light Warriors, but you can still make Isolde. But Joker Straight is very, very good. If you're playing Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and all that, you just play this, and it's basically a one-card Slifer. Because you special summon the Queen's Knight, you add the King's Knight, and then, which special summons the Jack's Knight, and then because it says you immediately normal summoned, you haven't used up, your normal summon, your actual normal summon. So then you can sacrifice for Slifer. If you wanted to mix these and Slifer, that's something that you can do. So yeah, I think that this is very good. Very, very good support so far. These three are definitely the really good ones for the new straight archetype. I'm gonna call it flush, the flush archetype. So yeah, pretty cool. Face card fusion. So normal spell card fusion summon one Light Warrior fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your field, hand or field. If you control Queen's Knight, King's Knight, or Jack's Knight, you can use one monster from your deck as fusion material. So the idea behind this one is that if you have the other two in your hand, you get to use the third one to summon Arcana, the Arcana Joker. That's the fusion. Because the fusion monster is pretty good. You get to negate cards. I think it's a once per turn. It's been a while, but I think you negate cards based on their card type. So if they activate a spell card, you discard a spell to negate it. If they activate a monster, you discard a monster to negate it, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. But that card is okay. I think that's kind of like the bare minimum for almost the bare minimum now for fusions to be like very good is using fusion materials from the deck. But yeah, I think that card's overall pretty decent for a fusion spell because this is what the whole deck revolves around. Next up, Thunderspeed Summon. Quick play spell card during the main or battle phase immediately after this effect resolves. Normal summon one level 10, or if you control Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and Jack's Knight, you can apply this effect instead. Add one non-dark monster with question mark attack from your deck, then immediately after this, you normal summon one level 10. See, this is good support for the gods just in general, because what you're doing is this adds, at least for specifically, this adds life for the Sky Dragon to summon. So, if you're a fan of Slifer, Slifer will be a more casual deck, and I think this will too. But if you're a more fan of Slifer and you want to build a deck around Slifer, definitely probably pick these cards up. I think out of the Slifer deck, the only cards you really would want are, if you don't have Slifer, buy Slifer, buy the, buy some of the support cards for Slifer, like the Thunder Force attack, and the summoning thing that allows you to tribute your opponent's monsters. and then you would pick up these. I think that that's the way to build Slifer if you're gonna build a deck around Slifer, especially because Thunderspeed Summon is just a very, very good for Slifer because it's, like I said, it searches it. Definitely, and the only reason I keep bringing this up is because in the article when they announced the set, they did mention that these cards would be good with Slifer, and so far they're absolutely right. I honestly think that these are some of the this engine is some of the best support for Slifer the Sky Dragon, and which makes sense because Yugi's whole reason he put these in there, um, he put these in his deck around the same time he got Slifer the Sky Dragon, so that's pretty cool. Uh, Definitely a decent card if you're running Slifer. The idea is to actually get this card, but they did mention Slifer. Very cool. Next up, Joker's Wild. So, during the main or battle phase, you can send one spell card from your deck to the graveyard that specifically lists all of Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and Jack's Knight. This effect becomes that spell's effect when the card is activated. During the end phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can target a light warrior monster in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, and if you do add this card to your hand, you can only use each effect once per turn. So as a trap card, this card is actually... So I usually, clown on trap cards a little bit, but this is your sixth copy of their search card, right? Joker Straight. This card is your sixth copy of it, right? Like, just specifically, and that's very good because what that does is it adds a lot more consistency to the deck. So, not only do you have the spell card you can add back by shuffling in a light warrior and all that. This card gets that card into your graveyard, and this also adds itself back as well, because that kind of is the theme of shuffling the light warrior monsters in to get an effect, and the idea behind that is so you can keep using your kings and queens knight to summon your Jack's Knight. So overall, I think that that's a pretty good card. Definitely, I'm interested in playing this deck. I've always liked the Knight cards, so I'm kind of interested in trying it. Whether it's good or not, remains to be seen. But that's really cool. I really enjoy what they're doing to, to keep summoning them back and back and back. Alright. Court of Cards. Continuous trap card. If you control no monsters or control Queen's Knight, King's Knight, and or Jack's Knight, you can special summon one Queen's Knight, King's Knight, or Jack's Knight from your hand or graveyard. Its second effect is you can banish up one to each of Queen's, King's, and Jack's Knight from your hand and or graveyard. Draw the same number of cards banished. So, draw power is always important. The only thing I don't like about this card is that it actually banishes them. If it shuffled them back into the deck, it actually would fit with the rest of the cards, as that's kind of what the deck wants to do. Keep shuffling, cards back and all that. But the fact of the matter is, it is draw power, and it is decent draw power. If you, for example, do mix this with Slifer the Sky Dragon or throw a Slifer in this deck, banishing them would be very good because that gives your Slifer an extra 3,000 attack. You're going to probably be playing, I imagine you play 3 of each of the level 4s and maybe 2 Jack's Knights. Because you're shuffling in Jack's Knight constantly, and Jack's Knight is a level 5. I imagine that's what I would do. But maybe you do just play 3. Anyway, Court of Cards is definitely a good card. If its second effect is good in that sense, its first effect is very good in general, because it just summons them back. You can only use one of the effects, though, per turn, but that's okay, because if you flip this up, let's say you have no monsters, you flip this up, you summon out Queen's Knight. The Queen's Knight and then you normal summon the Jack's Knight. Then you get, or not the Jack's Knight. You normal summon the King, then you get the Jack from the deck, uh, which is pretty cool. I like that this deck is actually seems it has a good cohesive strategy. Summoning 3 monsters is pretty good and everything, even if it restricts you what you can link summon or and all that. But I do like that the synergy that they're going with for all these cards. I think this card is okay. You're definitely gonna be wanting to try. I'm definitely gonna try it. Next up, ooh, some Magnet Warrior support. So, Magnet Induction. It's a normal spell card. If you control a Magnet Warrior whose original level is 4 or lower, special summon one level 4 or lower Magnet Warrior from your deck with a different name than cards you control. Also, for the rest of the turn, after this resolves, Magnet Warrior and Magna Warrior monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle or by your opponent's card effects. So I actually used to play Magnet Warriors. I used to play them with Block Dragon, so you could do insane link plays. And I know that people are going to be like, oh, but Block Dragon is the reason that you got to do the plays because Block Dragon is broken. And yes, I know. But this card is a good card for Magnet Warriors. So if you're a big fan of Magnet Warriors, definitely probably get this card for your deck. It's very, very good. For example, you can normal summon any of the 2 searchers, and then special summon out one of the other searchers. Or a good thing to do, if you have this card and then the one that searches any Magnet Warrior monster, it's not the level 4 lower Magnet Warriors. What you do is you normal summon the one that searches the level 4. You add the one that searches the big one, like Berserkion, and then you activate this to special summon out the one that lets you special summon from the hand. So you can get them all out in the field. That's just something you can do with Magnet Induction. Next we got Hyper Cannon. Continuous trap card. You must control XYZ Dragon Cannon or a fusion monster that lists XY Dragon Cannon as material to activate this card's effects. This effects depends on whose turn it is. Your turn, you can target one of your banished union monsters placed on the bottom of your deck, and if you do draw a card during your opponent's turn, you can discard any number of cards, target the same number of cards your opponent controls, and destroy them. So, if you get out Xyz Dragon Cannon, it's a very powerful card. However, getting out XYZ Dragon Cannon is a chore. And I know this because I built a deck to get it out, and usually I can get it out turn 1, but I lost almost all my resources to do so. So I usually end up with like 1, maybe 2 cards. It's usually like 1 card left in hand when I summon it. So the second effect isn't that relevant. I mean, sure, I shuffle in and stuff and draw a card so I can pop 2 cards, but overall it's still like a uphill battle. Even if I get this effect, to destroy 2 cards, if I time it right, I can disrupt my opponent, but overall, XYZ Dragon Cannon has just kind of been power crept out of the game, especially with ABC. But yeah, it's okay. It's something that specific version wants, but this isn't enough to make it even really a competitive, not even competitive, a really functional strategy. Next up, Golden Eyes Idol. So, level 1 Dark Spellcaster, effect 0 attack 0 defense. Once per turn quick effect, you can activate this card. Look at your opponent's hand. Also, this card's name becomes Thousand Eyes idle until the end of the turn. If this card is banished or sent to the graveyard by card effect, you can target one effect monster your opponent controls, equip that to effect monster to one Eyes Restrict or relinquish monster you control. They cannot be normal summoned. Okay. While equipped by this effect, that a monster gains attack equal to the equipped monster, and you can only use this effect of Guardian Eyes Idle once per turn. If you're wondering why I paused, I kind of lost where I was. Okay, so this is decent relinquish support. I don't know if it actually, if you like the relinquish deck, I haven't really tried it since the Instant Fusion Limited, because once Instant Fusion got limited, it kind of murdered the deck. However, that deck before that, if you weren't playing like a super meta deck, that deck could wreck people, and it was really funny. But Golden Eyes Idol is probably something you're going to want to play in the deck just because it summons out, because it is a better, card than Thousand Eyes Idol. At least it has some kind of effect. But maybe not. I don't know if I'd play this card or not. But yeah, it's interesting. At the very least, if you have a relinquished out, you could normal summon this and then use Spellbook of Power. Not Spellbook of Power, but Spellbook of Knowledge. Send this card to the graveyard, and then draw 2 cards, and then equip it. So that's kind of funny. But other than that, I don't really, maybe not. I'm just going to move on. This card's kind of like, to me. Zolga the Prophet. Level 4 Earth Fairy effect. 1700 attack, 1200 defense. If you control an Earth Fairy monster, except for Zolga the Prophet, you can special summon this card from your hand, then look up to the 5 cards on the top of each player's deck. When a monster is normal summoned by tributing this card declares an attack, you can banish this card from your graveyard and destroy that monster. And if you do, inflict 2,000 damage to your opponent. So I'm assuming this card is a reference to the time when Kaiba, like, soul exchanged, her Zolga, Ishizu Zolga, the original one, to summon Obelisk, but because he used Soul Exchange, he couldn't attack, and then she had Blast Out by Tribute to finish him off. Because this is an Ishizu card. I think that that's the idea behind this card. The look into the future thing, while you look at the top 5 cards of each player's deck, is also an Ishizu thing, because Ishizu could see the future with her Millennium Necklace, so that's kind of what it's referencing. It's a cool reference, and it's definitely more Shizu support. Hopefully, it isn't too terrible. The Shizu deck, can't speak today, focuses around Earth Fairies and stuff like that. So, it's interesting. So far, the highlight of these things has definitely been the Jax Knight support and stuff like that. So, number F0, Utopic Draco Future. It's a rank 0, Light Warrior Xyz effect. So, as 3,000 attack, 2,000 defense, and its materials are 3 Xyz monsters with the same rank except for number monsters. Its original rank is always treated as 1. This card is always treated as a Utopic Future card. You can also Xyz this card by using 1 number F0 Utopic Future as material. Transfer its materials. Cannot be destroyed by battle or card effect once per turn. When your opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can detach 1 material from this card, negate the activation, and if you do, then if that monster is on the field, you gain control of it. Wow, that's powerful. They summon a monster, they use its effect, you go nah, and then you just take it. That's that's a good way to make your opponent tilt out, I guess. It also has a lot of attack, so it can just, it can start attacking over things as well. It's an okay card. It's better than F-Zero Utopic Future. It's a good, it's a good actual payoff for summoning that card, or using this card as a stepping stone, I should say. Definitely cool. Uh, Interested in seeing if this makes any impact on the meta, because Utopic Future did see a small amount of play. It wasn't like anything major, but it did see some play. So this can as well, probably. Gilti-Gearfried, the Magical Steel Knight, is a level 8 Light Warrior Fusion effect. 2700 attack and 1600 defense. And its materials are 2 warriors with different attributes. Once per turn, when a card or effect is activated that targets this card, quick effect, you can negate that effect, and if you do, destroy 1 card on the field. If this card is fusion summon only using monsters on the field as material, it can make a second attack each battle phase. Once per turn, if this card battles an opponent's monster during the battle or during damage calculation, you can banish 1 spell card from your graveyard. This card gains attack equal to half of its current defense until the end of the turn. Wow. This card is just. This card has so many effects that it kind of is decent. It's good enough. The only issue is summoning it. Um, I don't know what deck wants it, considering that the Kings, Queens, and Jacks Knights are all light warriors and focus around light warriors. You would have to have other warrior monsters, um, like Marauding Captain and Goblin de Burg. Probably play Goblin de Burg over Marauding Captain in that deck just so that you can make rank 4 plays. But and then you could also fusion summon using their fusion spell. I think that's like the way that I would do it if I was gonna play this card. It's okay. It's generic enough. Also, I guess that if you do the Kings, Queens, and Jacks Knight and don't have the you know, downside of only being able to summon out opponent's monsters and stuff like that with their fusion spell, this card's okay. I'm interested if you send me any deck profiles of this card, I would love to see it. Or if you have a deck for it, I would like to see you use this card because I kind of want to see how good it can be. It's pretty neat. Next up, Crystal Girl. I think we're moving into the Zexal area again because I'm pretty sure there's a girl that played crystal water monsters. Anyway, level 1 water spellcaster effect. 200 attack, 100 defense. If this card is normal or special summoned, you can activate this effect. During the end phase of this turn, add 1 level 5 or higher water monster from your deck to your hand. If you control a level 5 or higher water monster and this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon it, but banish it when it leaves the field. Okay. The good things about this card is searches. I don't know what level 5 or higher water monster you're going to want to search, but it searches. And it's a 1-for-1 target, and it summons itself back. Those are the good things. Like I said, I don't know what good level 5 water monsters off the top of my head you can search with it. Please let me know in the comment section down below. But it is a 1-for-1 target, and it is a spellcaster. So those are cool, 2 very cool important things. For example, another thing, something you could do with this card. 1-for-1, summon this out, get its special summon effect, search for level 5 or higher water monster. Then, which, it happens during the end phase, but it activates immediately. Then, use Spellbook of Knowledge, send it to the graveyard, draw 2 cards, go from there. definitely a cool card. Uh, it helps you keep up with advantage as well. Uh, yeah, cool card. Hopefully, I'll see some kind of cool deck list come out of this card. Next up, Tindangle, a Tindangle support. So, Tindangle Dholes. Level 5, Dark Fiend Flip Effect Monster. 1000 attack, 1000 defense. Flip, send a spell or trap card from your deck to the graveyard. If this card is sent from the hand or deck to the graveyard, you can target one Tindangle monster in your graveyard except for itself. Special summon it face down. You can only use each of the preceding effects of Tindangle once per turn. A Tindangle Link monster that use this card as link material can make 3 attacks during the battle phase. So, Tindangles are a very, very slow archetype and very, like, they came out way too late in the game to be any kind of meta relevant. However, all things considered, this doesn't really help that necessarily. It doesn't help with their big flashy. It doesn't help them do any like big flashy plays. It doesn't help the fact that you have to set all your monsters and all your cards to really get going. But what this does do is if you do link summon with them, with this card specifically, it's basically gonna whatever Tindangle monster you summon can basically, probably OTK or end the game. That's what this card is offering. And because it can summon, one of your Tindangle monsters from your graveyard, except for itself, and face down defense, you can Foolish Burial this. If you have a Tindangle monster in your graveyard, you get one of those back. So it does have good applications. And if it's sent as well, it has another way. So you can use it as cost, or pitch it as cost because it doesn't say by card effect. Its second effect is pretty good. Its first effect is also okay. There are spell and trap cards that want to be in the graveyard. The only problem is it is a monster that it is a flip effect monster. So its first effect is slow. Its second effect is also slow because it summons it in face down defense position, which, like I said, they're flip effects, so they kind of want to be there. But that's the issue with this deck in general, is that it's slow. I rambled on long enough about the Tindangles. Next up is Rose Princess. So, level 3, Earth, Plant, Effect Monster, 1200 attack, 800 defense. If only your opponent controls a monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Special summon this way, treat it as a tuner. You can only special summon Rose Princess. Once per turn this way, you can discard one. You discard this card to add one White Rose Cloister from your deck to your hand. So it's a pretty good Rose support, which is like Akiza. Akiza has like a Rose themed deck, a Rose and Plant themed deck, just in general. So I think this is pretty cool for the Rose, like for that Rose deck. Pretty interesting. It's a free summon at the very least. It rewards you for going second, though. So yeah, pretty cool card. And if you go first, you just discard it to add. Next up, Morph King Stygi-Gel. Level 1, Dark Fiend Tuner effect. 100 attack, 100 defense if this is normal. Or special summon, you can target one face-up monster on the field. You cannot special summon monsters from your extra deck except for Synchros for the rest of the turn. Also change this card's level to that target, and if you do, you gain life points equal to that target's level times 200. During your main phase, you can special summon one feed monster with a level lower than this card from your hand. It's a 1-for-1 target that's pretty good. It's a tuner that can change its level. I'm not impressed with the card, though, overall. Next up, White Rose Cloister. So, this is what the Rose Princess can search. It's a field spell. If you control no monsters, you can special summon one Rose Dragon or Plant monster from your hand. You can only use this effect of White Rose Cloister, or Cluster, or whatever, once per turn. During your draw phase, before you draw, you can declare one card type, monster, spell, trap, reveal the top card. If it is declared a card type, apply this effect. For the rest of the turn, even if this card leaves the field, level 7 or higher synchro monsters you control gain 1,000 attack. So this is for one of the rose cards puts a card on top of your deck. This is to get it puts like a monster on top of your deck, and this is what this card does is let you call it and it boosts all your attack. And there isn't a downside to calling it wrong too, which is what I like. I think that's the best part of this card. There is no real like super big downside. Also, this card actually works pretty well with Rose Princess herself, because it just special summons Rose Princess if you have no monsters. So, pretty cool card for the Rose deck. It's better than Black Garden. Black Garden has a lot of issues in terms of not only does it give your opponents tokens, which is actually very bad in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! Since a lot of decks play Link monsters still. There's hardly any decks that don't play Link monsters now. But yeah, I think that overall, definitely good support for the Rose Dragon archetype. Next up is Burning Soul. So, if you control a level 8, it's also a quick play spell card. If you control level 8 or higher synchro, you can add one card from your graveyard to your hand except Burning Soul. Then immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon using monsters you control as material. For the rest of this turn, after this card's resolves, your opponent cannot target synchro monsters with card effects. You can only activate one Burning Soul per turn. I'm starting to lose my voice here. Alright. So adding a card back is actually very good. But yeah, that's about it. That's all I have to say. So it basically is like, hey, you summon your synchro, you get your card back, and then they can't target your synchro monsters with card effects for the rest of this turn. So yeah, I think this card's pretty good. It's okay. Realistically, I don't know a synchro deck that really wants this card. Because the synchro decks are usually like hyper fast combo decks that like end up negating stuff and stuff like that. Sure, adding cards back to your hand will be nice, but by the point that you're summoning all these monsters and stuff like this, I think that this card is doesn't really have a need. I guess it's a good card. It just most decks don't need this. Is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, Hyper Galaxy is our next card, which is a quick play spell card. Woo, more Galaxy support. I know that there are a big fan base out of this deck, and this deck people will be like, oh man, if this deck was consistent, it'd be good. And kinda, because I know that this deck can put out insane boards if it doesn't brick. But yeah. So it's a quick play spell card. You contribute one monster with 2,000 or more attack, except for Galaxy Ice Photon Dragon. Then target one monster your opponent controls for 2,000 or more attack and tribute it. And if you do, you special summon one Galaxy Ice Photon Dragon from your hand, deck, or graveyard. You can only use one Hyper Galaxy per turn. Okay, so I don't. So I mean, I guess if your opponent goes off and everything and doesn't have a bunch of negates, or doesn't have even one negate really, you can use this card to out one of their things. But at that point, I think it's better just to play like a kaiju. I guess you could, in theory, kaiju one card, summon another kaiju, play this, tribute both the kaijus, or tribute, not the kaijus, but tribute one of their other monsters that have a negate. Maybe they have one card that negates spell cards, one card that negates monsters. Alright. So I'll just use those as examples. So So in a hypothetical situation, I guess you kaiju, the one that negates the spell card, special summon the bigger kaiju on your field, activate this, tribute off their monster effect negate, and summon out Galaxy Ice Photon Dragon. That's just something that, like, I guess you can do off the top of my head. I don't know how good that would be. I just think that this is something that Galaxy Eyes don't, or Galaxy doesn't really need, and I don't think Galaxy really needs any more support other than like find a way to make the deck more consistent. Because like I said, it bricks like freaking like no other. Pendulum Transfer. Normal spell card, you can target up to 2 pendulum monsters you control. Place them in your pendulum zone. You can only activate this card one pendulum transfer per turn. So I think it's important to note that you can't have any monsters in your pendulum zone in order to do this. And I think that that is that's a bit of an issue for this card to be any kind of relevant. It doesn't destroy your pendulums, the pendulums in your pendulum zone. So if you have even so, if you have you know, your pendulum zone's full, which pendulum decks tend to do, this card doesn't do anything. So it's not a very good card in my honest opinion. What this card seems like it's doing is like, oh hey, I have a field. Oh, my opponent blew up my scales and I'm out of resources for some reason, because pendulums decks usually don't lose resources too hard. But oh no, I can't rebuild my scale. Bam, there you go. That's the idea behind it. It's not very good. It's not very good in my honest opinion though. So, Pendulum Xyz is an X card. It's a normal spell card. You can target 2 cards in your Pendulum Zone, special summon those targets, but their effects negated immediately after this effect results. Xyz summon 1 monster using only those 2 monsters. When you do, you can treat the level of one of those monsters the same as the other. So this card is okay. What this card is doing is, so pendulum decks, most of the time they don't actually have a good way to summon out their monsters outside of pendulum summoning, of course. So, what this does is it just allows you to go into the big plays. So you can be like, oh hey, pendulum summon out, you know, activate, you know, your scales, pendulum summon out the rest of your cards, then, you know, maybe you build a board off of that, then you activate that card, and you get to make another, maybe one more negate on top of it. It's also a pretty good and easy way to summon like a rank, like a high rank Xyz monster, because there are pendulum monsters and stuff like that that allow you to but yeah, it because there are like pendulum monsters with high levels and stuff like that that kind of don't work inside their own scale. But this card kind of just gets around that because you just place them in the scale and then you Xyz summon with them. Overall, it's a cool card, but it's definitely not going to be meta relevant. But it can lead to some interesting plays. I imagine that there will be times where this card will be like, there'll be like some offshoot replay, maybe on Farfa's like table 500, or if, you know, people sent in the like big play replays to Mega Capital G like they used to, um, this card could definitely probably appear on one of those. Or if you have a pretty big play, you can send it to me and I'll feature it on the channel. So, Dowsing Fusion. Fusion 1 fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials listed on it from your graveyard. Only pendulum monsters can be used as fusion material for this card's effect. So this kind of works, I guess, with Pendulum Xyz, or the idea that you Xyz summon like you use, you know, your pendulum monsters for an Xyz summon, because you have to banish the materials from your graveyard. They can't be used anywhere else. So that's kind of what this card is doing. It's rewarding you for XYZ summoning with your pendulums, and then, you know, fusion summoning. Personally, I wish this was a miracle fusion rather than a only graveyard, because pendulum monsters outside of XYZ summoning are pretty hard to get into the graveyard. But that's just my opinion. And then last, and possibly not least, because I haven't read this card yet, Eternal Bond. Normal trap card. Target any number of photon monsters in your graveyard, special summon them, but their effects are negated. During your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one photon monster your opponent controls, take control of it, and if you do, its attack for the rest of the turn becomes a combined original of all photon monsters you currently control. Also, you cannot declare attacks this turn except for that monster. You can only use each effect of Eternal Bond once per turn. So the first effect is great. The second effect, I don't really get it. I can't think of, I guess that's a mirror match thing. I don't know if there is a card that summons out photons to the other side of the field. You can tell me that in the comment section down below. But overall, I think that the first effect is basically a soul shard, which is pretty cool. And it's a trap card, which kind of hurts the deck a little bit. But other than that, it's a neat card for the deck. Photon lovers, tell me what you think about it. But that's going to do it for this video. I talked long enough, and this was a very, very long and taxing video. So, please be sure to leave a like. If it is your birthday today, happy birthday. And if you want to send me any cool deck profiles or replays, my email is in the description. I would love to see them. And of course, and as always, have a wonderful day.